Collins, USYS Soccer National League Commissioner. I want to welcome you all to the podcast series. Today I'm joined with Stuart and Garry Monk from Soccer Profile. How you doing, boys?
Very well, thanks, Simon. And yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Garry?
Yeah, good, mate. All good.
How's the weather over in England?
Actually, all right. It's actually been sunny. It's not as hot as when we were over there a couple of weeks back, but for England, we're doing all right, to be fair. The grass is brown, so that tells you a lot.
I know when we last spoke, we was together at Disney watching the NCS finals, and the sun was out. The kids were playing. It's a great experience, and I think it opened your guys' eyes as to the potential of what Soccer Profile can do to elevate some of the kids' games here in the US. So, if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about Soccer Profile.
I think what's important before I tell you what Soccer Profile is, I think it's important to tell you what it's trying to achieve as well, and why we came up with this concept 4 or 5 years ago. I've been lucky enough in my coaching career to work for international, regional and local coaching organisations. That's allowed me obviously to coach all over the world, throughout Africa, America, out in China and throughout Europe as well. And wherever I've been, I've always got asked 3 questions. And I'm sure the coaches listening to this podcast will be asked the same questions by parents and players as well. What's my son's or daughter's strengths and weaknesses? 2, how do they compare age specifically against Premier League academy players? And 3, where can I get resource to enhance their development? So I got asked this so many times. So one day I went online to see if I could find a platform or some resource that answered those questions. And to my amazement, I couldn't find anything that answered all 3. I might have found something that answered maybe one of them, but no real substance backing up their reasoning, their rationale behind it. So my brother, Garry, was coming in to the end of his playing days at Swansea City at the time, doing his coaching badges. And we started having a real in-depth conversation about how do you measure and support a player's development. So a long time of consultation, development and stuff. We've came up with Soccer Profile that answers those 3 questions and a lot more really. So what we've come up with was a series of assessments that measure a player's technical and physical ability, that provides valuable data for the player, the coach and the club to support that player's development. And what's quite unique about our platform as well, it allows the player to compare those results against the global average score, age specifically, and against Premier League academy players' benchmark scores as well. So it's a real powerful tool for the player and also the coach to see where their players are or they're at in their development compared to what's going on in the rest of the world. So they can benchmark, take ownership of their own development, go and support that development, those areas in need of improvement as well, to ultimately help them reach their full potential, wherever their full potential takes them in the game.
I think that's, you just touched on one thing there, the individual development plan. I know here in the US, if you do any of your US soccer licenses, they're big on players taking ownership of their own game. And this is a question for you, Garry, from within the professional realms. Stuart mentioned the benchmark of the professional player and how the youth player can kind of compare themselves. How do you see that transition from yourself being a Premier League player, Premier League manager, and having to deal with some of the high-level athletes and athlete egos? How does that transition, does Soccer Profile fit within that spectrum, within the individual development programs, plans?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's again, going back to the conversations I had with Stu, reasons why we come up for that. My side of it, where I was coming from Stuart, was from that side of things, from the professional player and management side of it, was, how relatable is this, not just to the grassroots level and the youth level, but how does that then correlate to all the way up to what a youth player will aspire to be, is possibly a professional, soccer player. So that's my side where I came from. And when I thought about it, and we, again, talking to many people that have been in the professional game as part of this platform, a big part of that, and then from my management experience, was even at the highest level, the elite players, so playing in the Premier League, for instance, elite level players, even then when I was managing and coaching them, we're still, even at that level where you expect them to be a more complete player than anything else that's ever below them, still have to make sure that they're following their individual development programs, even at the elite level. So to understand that, spending plenty of time on the grass with them, these elite players, we're still going through individual techniques, individual, what we try and cover in our technical side of it, and physically, but especially the technical side of it. So for instance, with Soccer Profile, we cover ball mastery, dribbling and turning, passing and finishing, the key elements, or let's say the fundamentals of football. Even at the elite level, they're still doing that on an individual basis. They still have individual programs where they're trying to develop their technique. And it's like understanding even from a youth level or grassroots level, the importance of that, and understanding that even to get to the elite level, that you still have to do that. I think that's what marries up really well with the platform and the idea behind it. So the fact that with Soccer Profile, the way I looked at it from professional, how do we get that to the masses of grassroots? Because let's be honest, at professional level, we have the armory to go and pay for massive platforms that cost, sometimes hundreds of thousands of pounds a season to gather data on players. Of course, at grassroots, you cannot afford that. So, two key factors that we tried to concentrate whilst developing it was, one, how do you make it affordable to get this data, for the players to have that ownership of seeing their own data, for the coach to see their players and have that data, and for the clubs themselves to have that data? How do you make that in an affordable way? So the pricing point that we aimed for was to make sure that it was no more than what you'd spend on a takeaway, and to have that for a full season, which is pretty unheard of. You would, like I said, at the elite level, it's hundreds of thousands of pounds. This, what we're trying to make it affordable. The reason why is because we want these people to have this data. I look at it as a kid, Simon, you played, Stuart, youth level. If I had access to be able to see my own development, I would have loved it. I would have been all over it. I would have known how important that is. I never had that. I'm sure, Simon, you never had that. You always had a feeling. You had a feeling how good you were, or you got told how good you were, but you could never actually factually see where you were, and especially where you can compare it against players of your same age, that maybe where you're trying to aspire to be, it makes it even more appealing than before. And I think the second part of it, and probably the most important bit, especially for the coaches and for the parents, this side of it is trying to put something factual next to opinion. So we all have opinions of players as managers, as coaches, as parents. More parents, we especially see our own kids as the best, or probably biased. But it's to take away that bias, and put something actually factual next to the opinion. So when a coach or a parent says an opinion of a type of player, that's fine, and we can all have that opinion. But if we can put something that helps support that, which is factual data next to it, that helps, take away that opinion that might be biased. So those two things, especially those 2 points are just made there: affordability and to support opinion with something factual data. I think is really, really, a strong, unique part of this platform.
No, I agree. I think it's, as a parent, two boys, neither play soccer but play different sports. It's rose-tinted glasses when we look at our children, that they're always better than what they think they are. And it's always nice to have something that you're able to look at and reference, that you can see truly where your young athlete is at a certain stage of the development. And I think that what I like about it is it gives the player the ownership to take care of their own development. So they don't have to be coached every single day. They can go out and work on some things themselves. And more often than not, that's where unique skills are developed from the kids playing around in their own backyards, on their own local recreational fields, to work on their own game. And that's how they fall in love, and they really then can implement their new skills when they come onto a field on Saturday, Sunday, whenever game day is. But it's really good to hear that it's a professional format that's transitioning into the youth space that's transferable, and we can also compare data between the professional athlete and the youth athlete, which doesn't separate them but brings them together, and they can kind of use them tools and benchmarks, and even use them as motivation, if you will, to get better and see the things that's achievable. One thing I wanted to ask is the platform an aid to help a player become recruited? Will it help them? Will it help us with our recruitable moment? Will it help a child present themselves to any particular future scout? Will the scout use this data to see that they're actually taking ownership of their own game and their own development?
100%, and it's happening in this country. You know, in the UK as we speak. We are working very closely with a professional club in the English Premier League that have implemented our platform into all their satellite development centres that are linked to their full-time academy. So they're constantly measuring and supporting every player's development continuously out throughout the season. But the key thing, what they're doing is while they're monitoring, they're making sure players are at a certain level, and when they reach that level, they're bringing them in for trials within their academy setup, making sure they're technically and physically right. So linking into those recruitable moments, we have English Premier League clubs that are utilising it now just for that reason as well. We are. And
it's user-friendly, right? It's not, it's simple to use, it's not time-consuming.
Yeah, the feedback we've got, you know, from a mum, dad, finishing work, rushing home, signing sessions, utilising our platform to do that, to the grassroots coach, to the elite coach at various age groups, we've had, you know, it helps all of them. You know, we're not dictating what to do, we're providing with the tools to be able to do their job to their full potential. We are, but ultimately linking back to the player, helping them reach their full potential. So for instance, when we're deciding this, we've all been fathers and mums on who's listening to this podcast, rushing back and thinking, oh, I've got to do a session tonight. This helps our online library, loads of resource in there as well. You know, quickly you can go onto the platform, see what the areas of the team that needs to improve on, their strengths and weaknesses as a collective, and then think, oh, I've got to work on finishing, the finishing library, pick out your finishing sessions and stuff. So you're meeting the needs of the player. You're not just turning up and putting on a session for the sake of putting on a session. You might have 4 or 5 that your bank sessions, for instance. You're meeting the needs of the player. And this is what this platform was all about, meeting the needs of the player to help them.
And the coach can track that, right, Stuart?
Yeah, the coach can track that. The director of coaching at each club have access to every coach's and every player's accounts and data they have. So they can make sure, you know, oversee what that coach is delivering to those players and see how they're developing through the data and the graphics the platform produces. So it really now makes that coach accountable for each player's development in their particular team. It does. And also acts, touching on what you said before, a parent portal. So parents can log into those accounts and see how their child is actually developing underneath that coach as well. So there's no hiding place, you know. So yeah, it's a great tool.
And and if I'm not mistaken, it also has a messaging facility so that the coach is able to message all parents, give updates on upcoming events, and it's kind of a holistic platform that a club can fully embrace if need be.
100%. And, you know, we've got clubs that are utilising, you know, the internal messaging system just for that as well, you know. So there's lots of features and functions on there. It's a big site, lots of features and functions that the, you know, grassroots, the elite coach, or just the player, you know, would need to reach their full potential. But it is very, very user friendly. One of the things when we're developing this, we had to make it user friendly, and you know, the feedback we've got from our users is just that.
So moving on to and focusing specifically on Elite 64, USU Soccer's top club-based model, lots of interest, lots of traction. We've also having podcasts with all our partners so the players can get a better understanding of what's available. We're pleased to announce that you guys have offered every player in Elite 64 a 3 years subscription, which is an amazing gesture. And on behalf of USU Soccer, want to thank you for that. How can we get more kids involved? How do we get the kids in Elite 64 involved? What do you need from us?
Well, with Elite 64, obviously really excited to be working with the Elite 64 teams, every team. A great idea, the concept behind it all. I'm really looking forward to seeing how the league develops in the future and stuff as well. And for me and Garry and the rest of the team at Soccer Profile, we wanted to show our dedication and our commitment to USU Soccer, but more importantly to youth soccer and helping you grow the game in the United States. So that's why we're offering our platform for free of charge for the first year to not just the players but the coaches as well. So all we're asking for, I know we've talked about it, we're going to have through Zoom platforms and stuff, we're going to speak to all the clubs and maybe regionalise it as well, get them all set up on their platform, show them how to utilise it, how to utilise the data to maximise each player's development, to hopefully make those more recruitable moments throughout the season for them.
No, that's great. And Garry, well, I'll ask this question to yourself. We're trying to help these kids get soccer resumes, if you will. Start a little younger. Target the kids as they come into Elite 64 at 13. If you were starting out at 13, an Elite 64 player, knowing what you know now, what would be important for you to make sure you'd got on your resume?
Oh, again, a good question, Simon. If we're referring it to the platform Soccer Profile, I think the thing that we concentrate on the most is having the fundamentals. So we need the fundamentals. That's what we concentrate on the most, and it's to never neglect them. Like I just said earlier, even the elite players that play at the highest level never neglect those fundamentals still. No matter how good they are at them, they still constantly work on them. In terms of having that resume, and I know how strong that is, it's even stronger need for it in America than there is, what we're trying to do here is something we're trying to change the landscape even here in England. England doesn't have, those young players that are in academies now or vying to be in an academy now don't have what you're offering here in America, not just with Soccer Profile, but other platforms that you have there, which we know is to try and build that resume. It's a really strong part of American culture to try and get them into whether that's scholarships in college or potentially to go even further than that, eventually ending up in MLS or in Europe playing for these top clubs. So having a resume is a huge thing, and to be part of that and to be able to offer, like we said, substance and factual data that supports that opinion for these young players, to let them have that on their resume of, this is where I'm at, this is what I can do, this is my technical ability, my physical ability here, to be able to show that in a way where it's presentable in front of you, which we're going to try, which is our aim to offer the young players. I think that then when they're going on to these scholarships for colleges or even further beyond that, to have that as part of your resume. If I had that at 13 years old, I think it would have made me work even harder. It would have made me realize what's ahead of me even more. What's out there, that carrot that's dangled in front of you sometimes. I think as much as I say that as well, having that carrot in front of you, knowing what's there and why you're doing that, I think there's also a sweetness behind it where it's got to be enjoyable as well. This learning process is to make it as enjoyable as possible. So I understand that we're not trying to make it like a taskmaster. We're just trying to support these players, understand where they're at and put it in an enjoyable way. Hopefully for the coaches, like we said, with the support libraries and the sessions that we've got there that support the assessments that we got, is to try and make it enjoyable as well along that journey. So this is one part that we hope that we're really successful in adding to that resume that you're talking about hopefully the Soccer Profile can offer that, which we're 99.9% pretty sure that we can.
No, I likewise, I may go that 1% further. I'm 100% certain you'll be able to certainly contribute to what we're trying to do and make every game a recruitable moment. I want to thank you for your time, and I'll leave you with one question for you in particular, Garry. When's the next post coming and where you're going?
I'm trying.
You don't have to answer that one, by the way. I just wanted to get it in for a reaction from it. So.
I'm very, very hopeful. I'm eager to get back in. I'm enjoying what I'm doing right now, which with Stuart, my brother, working on, which we have been doing all the way through. But obviously, when you work in management, time frame wise is a little bit more difficult. But I'm really enjoying this at the moment. Coming out to see you guys a few weeks ago, the national championships was an amazing experience. Even, I've had 25 years in the professional game, playing and managing. Even I was inspired going over there, watching these kids playing at the ESPN arena and just the whole setup of it and what you guys are trying to do there, creating this Elite 64 and trying to push that game forward and the growth of the game over there to be part of that and start on this journey with you guys. I'm really excited. I feel quite inspired by it. So me and Stuart, trying to work as hard as we can to try and come that fruition for yourselves and for ourselves, but most importantly for these kids at these levels.
And not to forget, I think one of the things we're going to try and do jointly together also is open the door to some of your network of industry professionals and give some webinars and possibly in-person sessions with some international managers, coaches, data analysis. I won't drop the names in there because I think some of the ambassadors are on your website and people can go and check them. But that's exciting to share some of that knowledge with as many people as possible.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. And again, a big part of this platform will be that education side of it. And I'm very lucky, and Stu as well, but very lucky to have worked with some incredible people in my career and people at the top of this profession in all those different departments you said. And they're more than willing to come along and put on those education seminars, whether that's to the coaches, to the players, even to the parents, and open that up, that side of it, give that insight into those departments and what's needed. Like we said, educating these young players and parents and coaches into what is actually needed to reach a high level, as high as they can possibly go, and be the best that they can be. Is having these people on board that are going to do this. It's going to be incredible for these guys to experience. So we're again really excited with that side of it as well.
No, it's exciting. I mean, to see the young women and the young men athletes come together and utilize some of this new technology and help them elevate the game to potentially reach whatever potential that is. And as you know, that potential is never reached unless you're willing to work at your game and work really hard at it. And take ownership of it as well. So, Stuart, Garry, I want to thank you for your time. I'm Simon Collins, USYS National League Commissioner, joined by Stuart and Garry from Soccer Profile. For more information, check the website out and we will be in touch soon. Take care.